Welcome to a piece of CX and a quick review of the Call and Contact Centre Expo that took place in London's Excel this week. I was going to say end of November, but we're a week earlier than we normally are for CC Expo. The event took place at Excel, right at the eastern edge of Excel. So normally, used to walking about halfway down. This was quite the trek. Which was funny because I was due to attend one of the lunchtime events. So UJet put on an event on the Sunborn boat just outside. I think I'm doing a disservice by calling it a boat. And actually, they were reaching out to people saying, give yourself a few extra minutes because it's quite a long wander. But you're always doing a lot of steps at Expo. It's a bit of a love-in. Everyone gets to see friends and colleagues and former colleagues. I just end up doing laps. I always start every expo kind of going through the agenda, highlighting who I want to go and see in terms of talks. And then at the end of the day, I have normally attended, like this year, the sum total of 0 talks. But I have walked past the ones that I wanted to go to and gone, if only I hadn't bumped into X or Y or this or that. But what was really interesting was the spread of vendors. So when you consider that some of the analyst pieces on CX, you would think there's maybe only 10 players in the market now. It feels a little bit stagnant in terms of innovation and in terms of different names. Actually, what was really interesting was the sheer breadth of names. So yeah, all of the quadrant kind of standouts were there. So NICE had a big stand, Zoom were there, Genesis have their VIP area that they usually do in London, which I get, but I always feel I never end up going on there to have a look at their stand because it's behind some red tape. That's just maybe that's a customer perception thing. 8x8 were there, Zoom, Content Guru were there, always with an impressive stand. Nextevia were there. Nextevia seem to be making a lot of noise in the EMEA market now at the moment. Salesforce were there. First time I've seen Salesforce at a CC Expo for a number of years. Microsoft and Cisco were there. Microsoft obviously making a lot of waves in contact center as well in the last couple of years. But what was really interesting were the number of names outside of that. So there are a couple that were maybe conspicuous by their absence, but there were a lot of solutions that aren't going to make that Magic Quadrant, that maybe are designed at an SMB market or maybe just have slightly different feature sets. And what was interesting was just the sheer number of different solutions out there, both from an entire CCaaS perspective, but also from a point solution perspective. And we've seen maybe a bit of a trend in the last few years to go with an all-in-one solution and try and do as much as you can under that badge to make life easier, in theory, for customers managing contact centers. But with the way that AI has moved so quickly and with the way that technology has moved, actually point solutions aren't necessarily a bad thing. So potentially, whilst it may not be a Frankenstack anymore, it's more we have your base solution and then you have lots of adjacent technologies that you will add to that. So one example of that is UJet. So I attended UJet's event on the cruise ship at the lunchtime, and they were talking about how, they can be a whole stack, but there are also individual aspects of as well if you want point solutions. So capacity was there. There were a value agent and a number of other solutions that, again, in the past, you might have ruled them out because, I've got something on Suite that you can do something with, but actually definitely took away a lot of notes of, right, I want to go and learn about that vendor or that vendor or that vendor. But the big thing for me is that CC Expo is always a social event. So it's going to see friends, colleagues, former colleagues, walking the halls, seeing who you're going to bump into. And that's quite nice. And it's good to see people. So I only attended one of the 2 days. I generally find that one day is enough for me at these events. And actually, having been to Customer Engagement Summit earlier in the year in Battersea, I really liked that was a one-day format because you knew you weren't missing out if you didn't go to the second day. And it was really quite nicely put together. So at CC Expo, lots of interesting talks. I'm sure I always make a list beforehand of the talks I want to go to. And then at the end of the day, I have normally gone to 0 of them because I've ended up bumping into people whilst trying to find the talks. And that happened this year. So apologies to friends and colleagues. I promised I would attend their talks. But what was interesting was pretty much every talk I walked past, it was standing room only. Now, maybe that's because there were less speaking areas than in the past. And actually, what was really interesting was previously when I've gone to Expo, there haven't been just enough places just to go and sit down. And they'd actually put quite a few areas. The cafe area was quite big in the middle, but there were areas where you could just go and chill out if you needed to as well. So that was quite a nice addition. But that is CC Expo in London, really well attended, definitely worth going to in future years if you are in town. It seems to be one of the premier events in the UK for the industry, and definitely one to attend next year. Thank you very much for watching.